All right, we'd like to welcome you back to the podcast where we always have commentaries in rigorous fashion. And today we're kind of going to do an off the cuff thing, man. We're talking about our favorite and or best villains. And obviously we could be sitting here for a long time because there's so many and it's so subjective. And we're talking about, I mean, in all of fiction. Like, so it could be books, it could be movies, it could be comic books, it could be graphic novels, it could be video games, it could be whatever. We're talking all of fiction. So, but and since because of that, obviously, if we're talking about all of fiction, there's a billion going through my head right now. The first ones that pop in my head are, you know, it could go on and on and on. So we've broken it down for you guys, three very specific yet random criteria. So I mean, like I said, man, I mean, and it's hard to choose because, dude, like I love Cobra Commander and Shredder, for example.
Yeah.
Those always come into my mind when I'm thinking about awesome villains. Are there that like pop into your mind just right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, off the cuff kind of one. Serial Mom.
That is a really good one.
Yeah.
That is, and again, like we've talked about this before, and we'll have to. We need to dedicate an entire episode to Serial Mom, because man, I'd heard about the movie as a kid always, and like knew about it and everything, but I never sat down and watched it until what is like a couple of years ago. You're like, dude, just
I know.
watch
I was
it.
like, just bear with
And I was
me.
like,
I was like, come
this
on.
is probably gonna suck.
I think at that point I had a couple of years under my belt of like, you trusted my taste, and I was like, it's okay, just try it.
That's
just
true.
Try it.
That's
You'll
true.
like it.
Yeah, and it was true.
Yeah.
Mikey likes it. It was true. It was really freaking funny, actually, and entertaining. Yeah.
But yes, sorry, ramble.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, man, see now I'm like, oh man, there's so many. But all right, we had to break it down for you guys because otherwise we're gonna freaking be here for a dog's year. So, all right, so we've broken this down in three different categories. I'm gonna let you go first. And the first category is what villain is actually just a total piece of shit, not one that you like. Not one they can possibly be entertaining, but one that like their acts are just so despicable that you just like if you saw the motherfucker in real life, you punch him in his face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like they're just evil.
One of mine is Percy Wetmore.
Percy Wetmore. Sounds familiar.
Played by Doug Hutchinson in Green Mile. You remember like how Dell had the little mouse and the mouse is like running across the thing and the cop just walked up and fucking squished his fucking little head in? That's Percy Wetmore. He is just a piece of shit.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, the only difference between him and the people that are in there is that he is on the opposite side of the bars.
Right.
I mean, if you remember, he completely intentionally ruined the execution of Dell. Do you remember that? He didn't put the sponge into the wet water, so that
I do remember that.
He like made it like way worse than it ever even. He tortured him because he found an excitement from that.
Yeah, it's fucking garbage. I've only seen that movie once all the way through. I've seen parts of it, just catching it on television if I walk into a room or whatnot. But it's a really tough movie to watch, and that's kind of the reason why. It's like it just makes you fucking angry, man. He's a piece of shit.
I remember when the movie came out, I had just finished reading the book like maybe 5 months beforehand. So I kind of already had an image of these people in my mind, and the guy that played him, Doug Hutchinson, who ended up like being a fucking creepy weirdo in real life.
Wait a minute, is this the guy that was in Punisher Warzone?
Yes.
That played Jigsaw's little brother?
Yes.
Oh, he is a freaking weirdo.
He played him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's in like other movies. He just plays that like scuzzy character so well that he is just such a piece of shit that you just want to punch him in his fucking face.
He probably has those tendencies because the dude's what, like 5'2" or something.
I know I think he's pretty short. Guy. Yeah, and he was like what in his like 50s when he married like an 18-year-old or some shit. Like, oh yeah, he's whatever. I'm sure that is wrong. You guys can fact check me on that. Hey, that was a good pick, man.
He's nasty.
Still, it's like he is him as a person. I don't know him personally, but I'm just basing off of like, if you can play a character that well, and you're not really diverse in what you're doing. I mean, like you said, with Jigsaw, it's kind of like maybe that's really who you are a bit. So
well, he was Looney Bin Jim. He was
right.
Jigsaw's little brother.
I know.
I know.
I'm sorry. That's what I'm saying. Like if you think of like the other characters and roles that he's played, it's like you do it a little too well for me to not believe that you kind of have some fucked up tendencies in your shit.
In Warzone, he was like ridiculously over the top, but there were certain little twinges when I was watching, because I've watched that movie many times. It's my favorite Punisher movie. It's the best. Yes. Whatever. Yeah. People can say what they want. It 100% is. But yeah, there were parts in it where I was like, man, this guy's kind of it's like some of it seemed like freaking like Three Stooges level of stupidity, and then some of it was like, I didn't want this guy around my fucking kids at all.
Yeah, like, yeah, I know. Like, there's just something really off-putting about him. So, and if he's not, which I do think that he is, not a great person. Again, don't know personally, but whatever. The way that he portrays his character in that movie makes him like hands down like even worse than the actual like villain of the movie, which was like what was it, Wild Bill or something like that, or whatever it was. I can't remember.
You're talking about the Green Mile.
Yeah, because he like
was that a Richard Bachman book, or was that a Stephen King book?
Richard Bachman, I believe. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned him, because and the things that you just talked about, because I'm gonna retort on sort of like a yin yang cookie side of this, man. Because I'm gonna tell you mine. The biggest piece of shit ever in any movie, and this stays with me still, is a character by the name of Donnie Barksdale. The film came out in the year 2000, starring Cate Blanchett, called The Gift. Donnie was played by the nicest man in Hollywood, Keanu Reeves.
Oh,
and he is such a piece of shit in that movie.
Yeah,
like I have never, like he is such an asshole. Like well, like you said, I don't know him personally. Maybe Keanu is like that. I doubt it.
Yeah,
but it's just so funny.
Public opinion.
You know, you talked about someone that was like specifically like he's a weirdo, and I'm taking the nicest guy in Hollywood to be my number one piece of shit in movies. I mean, he walks up and bitch and just drills her in the stomach right in front of cops and everything. I mean, he's if you haven't seen that movie, watch it just for that. I mean, it will shatter your image of Keanu Reeves, the nice guy. It's a testament to how good of an actor he is.
It really is
bad
you
do
hate him.
He's clearly an abusive piece of crap.
Yep.
Dude, he's bad in that. Like his portrayal is like almost it's too close to home.
It like I was saying,
what I mean?
It's one of those things that if you didn't think that you knew differently, it's always that you always hear that about those people. It's like, well, I would have never guessed that kind of thing, but you're like, maybe I would have guessed.
Like either he was going through some stuff in his life coming off of the Matrix, or he's actually just that good of an actor, or maybe a combination of both. Maybe he was method in some stuff. But I'm telling you watch that movie, that dude is an asshole. I would be curious
because I don't actually remember, but like, what would be the time frame between that and like when he lost? Because didn't he like lose his sister to a disease?
I
don't.
There was a lot,
like,
man. I mean, he lost his fiance and all that. Hey, don't have sympathy for Donnie. I'm telling you, Donnie is like evil.
Saying, no, because you were saying that like if maybe there was something going on in Keanu's life at that point that he was like pulling from.
Well, that's just my INFJ
I'd be curious to like kind of go
brain.
back. I know. I'd be curious to but that's my INFJ. I'm like, I'd be curious to go back and see what actually was going on around that time that maybe he was pulling off of. And I mean, either way, like it absolutely showcases his extreme talent.
From an acting standpoint, awesome. From a character standpoint, he's my number one piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
All right, now we're gonna like totally switch gears because I don't want everybody to be depressed about all the shitty, really evil ones, but we had to get that out of the way because again, we got to compartmentalize this crap. Otherwise, I'll be talking about freaking Thulsa Doom for 20 hours about like how less is more and all that kind of stuff. So the next subcategory is which villain in all of fiction would you like to like sit down and have breakfast with, have a conversation with? I choose breakfast because, breakfast is cool, but
who doesn't like breakfast?
Right.
Breakfast.
Ruffles.
Some stout.
But it's who's your breakfast villain?
My breakfast villain is gonna be the Collector, played by Billy Zane in a movie called Demon Knight.
Is that his name, the Collector?
Yes, that's who he is. That's his character's name.
That's a good choice.
The Collector.
He does seem pretty funny.
He's just fucking hilarious. I know. I was going to say I wrote down the most awesome little quote dance jig thing I have ever seen, which would hands down be the reason that you would want to go to breakfast, because if they fucked up his eggs, it would be hilarious. So I'm gonna say, according to the internet, verbatim is, "Fuck this shit, you fucking ho dunk po dunk. Well then, there, motherfuckers."
Dude, Billy Zane is super underrated, especially in that movie.
He's so good because he does. It's like
the character. Yes, go back to the character. That's his name. That's his official name.
Yes, the Collector.
I never read the credits.
Yeah.
Like, huh.
I wish that they had done a second one with that of Demon Knight.
It would have been better than fucking Bordello of Blood.
It would have been. It absolutely would have been. Bordello of Blood was just not that great. But
what do you like about him other than that?
Just the sense of humor that that he manages to pull off within the character, to that you're just like, you can see why all of the people that he's tempting fall for whatever it is that he's offering them or attempting to offer them. You know, the majority of them are just like, okay, you know, like that makes sense or whatever. And he's just, he's played very well.
I mean, would it really be that difficult to tempt Jada Pinkett?
No.
Sorry, kidding. Don't want to get slapped.
Right. Keep my life.
I know. I might have to edit that part out. Will Smith, he's a pretty big dude, man.
Will.
No, I'm about Chris Rock's size.
I'll punch him in the crotch. I'm sure I'm the perfect height for it. Just
I'm a bastion. Anyway, continue.
No, that's mine.
Yeah, he's cool.
You just think about like going out to breakfast with him, and like, you know, at a Waffle House.
Oh yeah,
a motherfucking Waffle House. Tell me that would not be the most amazing breakfast story you would ever have to tell anybody in your entire life.
Could be.
This motherfucker, he ripped one of those chairs that were bolted down and threw it. Said, "You ho dunk po dunk motherfucker didn't fry my eggs right."
Nah, dude. Good choice. Interesting choice. Didn't expect that one.
Who was your breakfasty one?
Dude, there's only one.
There's only one breakfast.
M. Bison, specifically from the Street Fighter movie, portrayed by Raul Julia.
Yep.
Dude, I mean, you're talking monumental also. Full uniform, cape and all, coming down and sitting down, dude, paying with Bison dollars and then looking at them like, why don't you accept my this generous offer?
Right?
There's so much I could say about this villain and this specific portrayal about the villain. Now, M. Bison is actually kind of a cool character in terms of the game, because in the old one, like, especially even when that movie came out, you didn't know anything about him. Hell, I mean, the country he was from, I think he went to unknown or something like that. And I think it was in Thailand originally, but he was like from an unknown place. And then his portrayal as like an actual kind of badass was pretty cool in the 1996 Street Fighter feature animated film, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. It's pretty cool. He got some funny lines in that too, but Raul Julia's portrayal is like the end all be all.
I agree,
dude.
It absolutely is.
I mean, not even to mention that. Well, first of all, see, I'm going against my own rules, because I already said, well, you got to separate the actor from. Well, I guess we can't, right? So.
Well, that's part of why we enjoy them or don't.
This is Rebel Podcast. Yeah. We're just breaking rules left and right. But I don't know if this is true or not. I've always heard that the entire reason he took that movie is because his kids were into Street Fighter. And Raul Julia, you know, serious freaking actor. And that's what made it so awesome. And also, the dude was dying from stomach cancer, while making that movie. From, you know, which, damn. Anyway, I mean, he made the freaking movie. Yes, it sucks in terms of a Street Fighter movie, but this movie is worth watching, repeated viewings, just for the nuance of Raul Julia's performance as M. Bison, dude. I mean, there's the power mad dictator himself. I mean, Bison dollars. Like he's throwing out zingers and like, I mean, just I guess you didn't see that. And freaking dude, there's a scene where, where he's like trying to create super soldiers, and they took Charlie Nash and Blanca and created and combined them into one character, but whatever, that ain't even the point. So he's like, Blanca's his first test subject or whatever, and he's showing them. See, everybody knows about like the famous line, "For me it was a Tuesday," which is great. Yeah. So he's taken this, trying to make the super soldier in I don't know if you remember this or how many times you've seen the movie, but he's showing them footage to like fuck their mind up or whatever of like actual historical atrocities and stuff. And what's crazy about it is a PG-13 movie, and it's actually real footage. You see somebody get shot in the head. But anyway, like, he's trying to warp his mind by seeing this stuff. And he just walks up, Dhalsim, Dr. Dhalsim or whatever is. Anyway, Bison just walks up and he's like, what's wrong with him? And Bison's like, it's merely educational programming. And the way he says it is just so like, dude, this dude is freaking awesome, man. Like I can't get over it. And he just has many, dude, his monologues, man. I mean, I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 in the film, but they're all freaking gold. Like the Pax Bisonica. And then, he goes through this whole thing, and at the end of it, he's so serious. He's like, and peace will reign, and the world will bow to me and humble gratitude. And he's so freaking serious. Like, I believe him. I want to go hang out with Bison. I want to have breakfast with Bison. Like, I don't even think he would get that mad if they messed up his order in Waffle House. He'd just like stand up and flap his cape and be like, let me show you how it is done, and everybody would walk out there with freaking, double stacked smothered chunk Bison waffles. He'd just stamp them, and Waffle House would be making a whole lot more money, it'd be Bison money, but Bison, Raul Julia's Bison is my pick.
That's a good breakfast choice.
Yeah, I definitely think he would. So let's go on to the last category, and this is the most difficult. But if you had to pick one in all of fiction, just one villain, could be the best, could be your favorite, could be both. What is it? You just got to pick one.
Like my overall?
Like your overall favorite villain of all time.
That's not hard for me at all. That's Jason. Jason Voorhees.
How did I know?
Oh, I don't know. There was maybe a hint or two here or there. Jason, he is just. How can you not root for the guy if you consider the fact that as a young deformed child growing up being bullied, he drowned at the lake because people were being pieces of shit, and the adults that were supposed to be paying attention were off boinking in the, I don't know, woods somewhere. And he dies. And in the first one, it's not Jason, but his mother. I'll go ahead and give a little bit of credit to it because it is due, obviously. If you haven't watched it, and if this is a spoiler, then fuck you. You're listening to, you're listening to the wrong channel here. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to throw you off track, but I just thought of something. Mm-hmm. Why would Pamela Voorhees, which obviously she's psychotic, so I've already answered my own question, but I have to wonder if she went psychotic after Jason's death, why would she send her deformed, disabled son to a camp where she's not there to supervise to begin with? Isn't that kind of irresponsible parenting? I'm just saying.
Okay,
I'm genuinely asking.
You remember that this was back in the time that they again, yes, this is a whole
fuck you, kid. Go to summer camp.
Pretty much, they didn't.
Me and your dad need to go have some cognac.
I'm pretty sure she was a single mom, and she was just like, "What the fuck am I gonna do? I can't afford to pay for daycare every fucking day for summer, and I can't leave by myself. Deep, bro. Camp is cheaper. Dude, it's it fucking makes sense. Why wouldn't it? Hell, back then they had a commercial, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Well, the fuck, they didn't. But it wasn't out of reach.
This is some controversy right here. I don't know, man. I don't think I would have
dropped them. Now, would I have done that? Absolutely not. But I am different, and I have grown up watching movies like this, so therefore I know you don't just take your kids and drop them off without fucking being there to supervise.
You had resources.
Exactly. Resources, motherfucker.
Good parenting. 80s horror films.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen. 80s horror films.
I mean,
you know what not
it
to
teaches
do.
you everything. Don't just go off having sex for no reason. That's a good lesson to teach your kids. You don't need to be out there just spreading it for anybody, whether guy, girl, whatever. I don't know who's spreading what, but nothing needs to be spread. Except the love.
All right, let's get back on track of why you love Jason. What is so awesome about Jason?
Tell me he does not have some of the best resurrections and kills that any villain could ever possibly have. I mean, he like picks a bitch up in a sleeping bag and just smashes her to death against a tree. That's pretty fucking cool. That's pretty cool.
She didn't see it coming, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, he walks in on a dude who's like in a sauna and picks up one of the hot rocks and just fucking melts it into his chest. Like, what the?
That's
fucking certified
pretty unique.
Badass right there. I mean, you're just like, fuck you. Like, just melting it, like, right through. Oh, yeah.
So how'd you feel about Freddy versus Jason?
I loved it. I thought it was great. Had some amazing kills in it.
I mean, I would say, I mean, if you've seen the movie, again, spoiler alert, because it's awesome. It's fucking...
It's not a spoiler alert at this point.
Horror icons, it's like fucking MCU with horror icons.
As it should be.
It was awesome.
I mean,
but
Jason,
he did win. He did win, technically.
I mean, he folds a guy in half. He folds a guy in a bed in half. Again, so fucking amazing kill, right? Like, just hanging out, laying in bed, fuck it, and like backwards.
It's true.
Like, you're just, just all propped up on your little elbows, just la la la, kicking your feet, and like the little teenage girl, and then slam.
There's not a whole lot of ways to react to that. See, when I watch horror movies, I always think about like what I could do to mitigate the situation before I get killed.
And
like
especially
with slasher films, but something like that, getting folded up on a fucking cot when you're sleeping,
yeah,
like with immediate effect. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, I don't even think it was a cot. I think it was like one of those like beds that you could adjust, and he just had the strength to just adjust the shit out of that fucker.
Jason Voorhees hates Lazy Boy,
right? He's like, "Fuck you,
fuck your Tempur-Pedic. It's too hot."
Again, you sympathize with him. He has some of the best resurrections.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite one? Because you know,
favorite resurrection.
Yes,
6.
exactly.
It's my favorite movie.
Exactly.
Out of the series.
Just the whole like electrified coming back to life. I mean,
it harkened back to the Frankenstein monster thing.
It did.
And it just made the most sense.
It did, and it kind of tried to tie in the finality of the other Jason. I mean, like, they did good with it. I agree. It was fucking great. But, like, again, just, like, the way that he came back, you're just like, oh, shit.
It was like,
other villains, they just reappear. Like, this, they're not always, like, brought back.
Well, I don't know. Freddy Krueger has some fucking crazy...
He does. Well, we're not talking resurrections, though. But, yes, like...
In the context of the series, yeah, because we watched them, like, back to back to back a little while ago. Enough for me to remember.
Yeah.
And, just like they had done with a lot of horror flicks, a huge mistake making it to where, well, it's not Jason for this movie, or it's not Michael Myers for this movie, or Michael Myers isn't even in this movie, or it's, it's like, so it was...
they're only a part of it.
It was a return to form.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, real Jason's back, fine.
Exactly.
Cool.
The fans fucking want him. We're going to fucking give him to him.
I hear you.
Absolutely.
I did.
I love me some Jason. So who is your... overall in everything, whatever?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say that I had to think about it for a while, and I could still be here thinking about it, actually, for different reasons. But if I just kind of closed my eyes and went back to childhood and what makes most logical sense, there's only one, and that's Magneto. In all of fiction, I think Magneto, for me, is my favorite villain ever. Now, there's a lot, though. Especially nowadays, he's more seen as like an anti-hero, but all that shit's circumstantial. Look, the dude was created as a villain. He is a villain. Ultimately, at the end of the day, man, like I said, I mean, his anti-hero stuff is more circumstantial. The dude is selfish. Whether he believes he's doing the right thing or not
Right.
is inconsequential, because
Right.
somebody will come along and say, "Hey, man, you're not," and he's just going to do what he wants anyway. This has been proven over and over
Yes, he
again.
does not listen to opposing opinions.
Well, I mean, he might listen to him,
but
and that's the thing. That's the thing. You don't know, like, he's super intelligent and he's super freaking powerful. I mean, on mega level. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but just from what I've seen, he is the most powerful mutant because his passion drives him.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool in that way. Again, he was created as a villain, and I didn't know much about him as a kid, because the first time I'd seen him was, maybe I was watching, because this was before the internet, so maybe I was watching some TV special and they showed, like, the first appearance of Magneto cover on some kind of show or something like that about comic books. And I was like, who's that guy? Whatever. And then the Secret Wars figures. And I was like, okay, it's another villain, this and that. But then I saw Pride of the X-Men, which was a one-shot animated feature. It's really well animated, actually, and he's a complete villain in that. I mean, to the T. It's what the Konami game was based on. It was like a 30-minute direct-to-video animation thing, and I was like, dude, this dude's freaking cool. And dude, he's animated like so well in that. The way they did his helmet, the shadow comes over his eyes, fucking awesome. But then you go on to, for me, it went on to X-Men E, which was the series that kind of rebooted X-Men in the early 90s, drawn by Jim Lee. And the way that Jim Lee drew him, man, I mean, he was just, ripped up, and just his Magna shield looked totally awesome and everything. But then inside of the comic was the first time for me, because I didn't, I was a kid. I didn't have money to buy a bunch of, like, Chris Claremont X-Men comics or whatever. Right. So at that point, there's parts in that comic where you saw him, like, with the helmet off, and he was going through these, like, small little monologues and everything. And it's just so well drawn. It just made me interested in the character. And then there's just so much more with him. So speaking of the Jim Lee, this is how fucking cool this guy is. So a very close friend of mine, like my bro, man, he had a like an 80s style skateboard, right? Like a footboard, one of the big ones. And he cut out this picture of freaking Magneto, a Jim Lee drawing, and he Mod Podged it onto the board. And it's one of the most badass decks I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, it's freaking cool, man. And then you go into, the movies, which is years later. Well, I guess only 7 or 8 years later, first X-Men movie came out, portrayed by Ian McKellen, which at first I was like, dude, he's too freaking old. But at the same time, Ian McKellen is such a great actor. He pulled it off, man. And there were twinges of, like, is this dude this evil? And then he would, like, say shit, like, to Rogue, where I think there's a point in the movie where she's like, are you gonna kill me? Because he's trying to drain her power, right? And he's like, yes. Like, just straight up, like, hey, teenage girl that's also a mutant, like, that I'm supposed to be protecting. Fuck you. I got my own shit going on. Sorry, so I was like, damn, this dude's real. Then you go on to X-Men, freaking the First Class series, when Michael Fassbender was born to play Magneto. Yes, it is amazing, and it just shit that he just bounces a tennis ball off of freaking Professor X's head, man. There's like a line, where there's so many good lines, but like one of them that sticks out to me is that, Xavier, portrayed by James McAvoy, also did a fantastic job. He's like, we have an opportunity to be the better men, Eric. And, and he just looks him deadpan and goes, we already are the better men. It's like, damn, dude, you just got slapped. That's some fucking Magneto logic right there. You just got fucking dude, in the animated series, the voice actor in the Fox series was so good. He almost had this, like, transatlantic way of speaking. Like, the tonality in his voice was already good, but the way that he delivered the dialogue was like this old kind of old American, old transatlantic. You just didn't hear that kind of stuff, and every iteration of Magneto, I have really, 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 really loved. And again, his motivations are understandable and
Yes.
they're really good. And I would probably do the same thing, but he always just by like one one step over the line, he's like, oh yeah, he's a villain.
Yeah.
He is. Make no mistake, he's not an anti-hero. Magneto is a freaking villain.
He is.
And yeah, so overall, I mean, I would say the best for me, the most well-written villain in all of fiction. And I know that's a tall order, but for me, it's Magneto.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, we had to break it down because there's many more. Maybe we could do more at a later date. If if any of you guys are interested, please leave your favorite villains and best villains in the comments below. And what do you mean?
No, if they have any suggestions on who we should discuss or why.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So yeah, thank you for joining us today and listening to us talk about a couple of the villains that we both really, really feel passionate about in one way or another, whatever that may be. So if you guys have any villains you would like to discuss, you can leave a comment down below. I'm sure we're gonna come back and revisit this topic. It probably different criteria that we'll have to meet, like different things, and just because there's so many different ones that we can explore. So,
that's the thing. These are the kind of conversations we have like all the time anyway. Like I'm trying to break it down a little bit smaller. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. And until next time, stay strong and salute.